Hello everyone! Welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be my monthly installment of Would I Repurchase? So that is a series I do here on my channel where I randomize 10 palettes from my collection and then talk about if I would or would not repurchase them. It's pretty straightforward. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around, but with all that, let's just get into it. All right, so I say this every single month, but this was not an idea started by myself. I will link some creators who also do this type of video down below in the description box, as well as all the makeup that I'm wearing today. But this is a pretty common type of video, and everyone has their different way of doing it. The way that I like to do it is randomize the palettes, so I don't really have time to think on it. It's really just my off-the-cuff opinion on if I would repurchase them or not, and that's exactly what I ask myself. Would I repurchase these palettes? So some people like to do it where if the palette was newly released today, would they be inclined to pick it up? I like to approach it as I know the palette, it's been in my collection overnight, it just disappeared. Is it important enough to me to go out and repurchase that palette again? So I am just going to get started pulling my palettes and make sure that I screen record. I've been doing this series for quite some time now. We're actually getting to the end of my palettes, and then after that, I just don't know what we're going to do. But let's pull and see what palettes we're going to talk about today. The first one's going to be the Nomad Chicago Speakeasy. Second is Ghost Town USA. I have a lot of Nomad palettes still to talk about, so we'll see how many get pulled. Ensley Reign Cold Moon. Number 4 is Too Faced Appley in Love. Number 5, Nomad the Tokyo palette. Patrick Ta, Still at the Club, one of the duos. I did count that as a palette for the sake of this video. Number 7 is the Dior 543 Promenade Doree. 3 more to go. Viseart, the Pro Midsommer. Number 9, Blend Bunny Longing. And number 10 is going to be Nomad Polar Express. All right, so let me go find those palettes and we will talk about them. I have all of my palettes in front of me. This is going to be an interesting round because I did recently have to update my wheel and just include newer palettes. So a lot of these haven't been in my collection for that long. And I don't know, I don't think it's going to be a good round, meaning a lot of these are going to be no's. But let's just see, because I do kind of just decide right when I pull it. The first one that was pulled was the Nomad Chicago Speakeasy. I'm going to say it now, but I did recently do a video ranking all of my Nomad palettes. I will link that video up above. And if you didn't see that video already, spoiler alert, this actually came in at number 1. It is my favorite Nomad palette. I just think it is so beautiful. I love that there's some color in here, but for the most part, I would say this is one of Nomad's more neutral palettes. I also really like how cohesive it is. I don't think we needed both of these rows of purples. Like one's a little bit more pink, one's a little bit more cool tone purple. It's neither here nor there because I love purples, so for me it's fine. Really like this palette. Like I said, it's my favorite. You have a deep dark brown here. It's not just all vertical trios. This is like a green with a shimmer and then a dark brown. So you have some variety in here. I think it's their best one, and it's one of the only ones that I would probably recommend. The second one is the Nomad Ghost Town USA. This was actually my first Nomad palette that I ever picked up, and here is what it looks like. I'm not sure if I'd repurchase this or not. Honestly, while I like this palette, I try to be really, really tough on myself. Would I spend the money on this palette again? Because my collection, my eyeshadow palette collection is quite large. So it really has to make the cut for me to say yes. And while I like this palette, it's just not 100% for me. I think I'm going to say no. And there's multiple reasons for it. One, I don't love these bigger palettes from Nomad. Two, I find some of the shimmers to not be my favorite type. They're more of a very thick shimmer, very emollient, almost like a ColourPop Super Shock, some of these. They're just really wet feeling. Right now I'm in that era where I like a more baseless, toppery kind of shimmer that adds a little bit of sparkle, not something that's so thick and heavy. And then I find some of these mattes to just be a little bit too dark leaning. I do wish like this top row here was a little bit lighter in tone. It would just suit my skin tone better. But, you know, for some other people, I'm sure they really love a dark grungy palette. So I'm going to say no on this one. Although I do really like having it in my collection, this is not a palette that would be on the chopping block even in the slightest. So yeah, this is going in the no pile. The next one I have is the Ensley Reign Cold Moon palette. I'm currently not purchasing from Ensley Reign. I just think there are better indie brands out there that I can support. However, I will still talk about them on my channel because I already own the palette. So here's what this one looks like. This palette, when it came out, I mean, it quite literally took my breath away. It is stunning. It is the perfect cool tone palette. I love it so much. The special indie shimmers in here are spectacular. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this palette other than the fact it's very, very messy. The shimmers in this palette are very textured and flaky. Even if you do your eyeshadow first before your base, it's going to be very hard to get all the fallout off of your face. That's the only thing that I don't love about this palette, the reason why I don't reach for this palette more. But outside of that, I mean, it still takes my breath away. I think it is so beautiful. Now, would I repurchase this palette if I decided to purchase from Ensley Reign again? I think that I would. I think I would still purchase this palette, surprisingly, because I do love having it in my collection. It's one of just those special treasures that I own, and it's something that it's just pretty to look at. The formula is good. The formula is not bad. I just don't love how messy this palette is. There are other Ensley Reign palettes that I find have less of these textured shimmer kind of shades. Lands of Enchantment comes to mind. That is my #1 favorite Ensley Reign palette if you are looking for a palette that I would recommend. So, you know, it's tough because I'm going to stick with my answer that I would repurchase this, I think. I would have a hard time just not having it in my collection. I find it to be so beautiful. Next up, we have Too Faced Appley in Love, my very first Too Faced tin palette, if you can believe it. I had never purchased a tin palette before this one. I'd had other Too Faced palettes, but not in these like tins. This one got me. I don't know what it is. I love the fall tones in here. I love the mustards. I would repurchase this palette. I really enjoy it, actually. It has nice shimmers. It has a nice variety of shades. You have light tones, mid-tones, dark tones, but not too many dark tones. I really only need like 3 max to deepen up the outer lid and then use as liner. Again, that's just personal preference for me. I like that there's different types of shimmers. There are kind of more of these toppery shimmers, but you have some with a little bit more of a base. I think this is a great palette, and because of this, I actually had a friend declutter the Sweet Peach palette, and I love that palette as well. I'm a little bit late to the game as far as these tin palettes from Too Faced, but eventually I got there. Now, the Nomad Tokyo Harajuku palette, in my ranking video, I actually said I was going to declutter this palette. So this is an immediate no for me. I can already tell you out of all the palettes I'm going to talk about today, like this is the worst quality palette. I did decide to keep this palette because one of my friends did a 3 looks with this palette and I really enjoyed her looks. They came out so much better than any of the looks I could do with this palette. So I am going to give it another shot before I fully decide, but it is like top of my declutter chopping block, definitely. I just found the shimmers to be so lackluster. They're not even that toppery shimmer. They just show up like nothing. Especially this shade I was disappointed in because it's like a yellow and on the finger, it shifts to pink. Kind of reminds me of like that classic Beauty and the Beast color, right? A yellow with a pink flip. But on the eye, I just could not get it to show up on me. I like the mattes. The mattes are pretty, and it is 2/3 matte, so that does save it a little bit for me. But yeah, they just unimpressed with this palette overall. And I'm just deciding if I want to keep it more so I have like the Nomad palettes to reference to, or if I want to get rid of it, if I want to give it another shot and see if I can recreate some of Kay's looks that she did with this palette and see if I can like it just as much as she does, because she really enjoys this palette. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with it, but this is definitely a no. The next no that we have, I already knew, is this little Patrick Ta duo. I don't know why I purchased this. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. I ended up doing it. This is the shade Still at the Club, and it is the more taupey one. It is just also lackluster on the lid. They made them look so beautiful online. That's how I ended up, I'm not going to swatch everything. That's how I ended up falling for this palette. You know, it's supposed to have like pearl pieces in here. I don't know, but this is just your typical shimmer. I mean, it is nothing special for $40. What a waste of money. And I purchased 2 of them. Honestly, one of my worst purchases of 2024 ever. One of my worst purchases ever. My biggest waste of money, if I had to be honest, in a makeup product. It's not even pretty to look at is the thing. Like, at least with the Ensley Reign Cold Moon, it's also very beautiful. This is just so underwhelming. And it kind of makes me mad. It kind of makes me mad looking at it, to be honest. I would not repurchase it. It would be a favor to me if this just disappeared out of my collection, because it hurts too much to actually declutter it. I need like some kind of fairy goblin to come take this away from me so I don't have to think about this purchase ever again. Another small little palette that I have, the Dior Quint in 543 Promenade Doree. This was one of their limited edition holiday palettes, I want to say. And I mostly purchased it because I loved the embossing. It's supposed to, I forgot what it is, but it kind of looks like a world around there. This palette kind of confuses me because while it's very pretty, I don't understand the silver in the middle, like the mix of the warm tones and cool tones, because this is very warm tone gold. And I liked the 4 shades. There were 2 palettes that came out in this collection, this one and then one that had more cool tones, but then gold in the center. And I just decided I liked these 4 better, even though I liked the gold center shade more in the other one, if I'm making any sense. So I ended up picking this one, but again, kind of just like a waste of money. It sits in my collection. I don't get a lot of use out of it. It's not a cohesive palette for me because it is like, they're all satin shades. So I have a little bit of trouble putting them on my eye without, like, as a one look. You could use it as a one and done palette, I guess, but I don't know. I just, for some reason, this palette, practicality wise, just misses the mark for me. Again, very pretty to look at. I like having it in my collection, but I definitely would not repurchase it and spend the money on this palette. It's just sitting there and I usually forget about it. So this is going in the no pile. Next up, my last small palette, yes, is the Viseart. This is the Petite Pro Midsommer palette. Here's what it looks like. Some great neutral pinky romantic tones. What I've discovered about myself in Viseart, 2025 is the year that I am trying to buckle down and get to know my eyeshadow palette collection and not just have them sit there looking pretty. So I've been pulling in Viseart palettes, and what I've just decided about Viseart is while they have great quality, I prefer their mattes over their shimmers. So this is like a half and half palette. Actually, it has 5 mattes and 3 shimmers, but the shimmers are just not good in my opinion. They're very subtle shimmers. They're not even like an opaque shimmer. They're really just like a hint of a shimmer, borderline leaning on a sequin matte or a satin. The only one you really have is this one. That's kind of like a toppery shade, but it's not enough to sway me. While I love the mattes in this palette, a lot, actually, quite a lot. I think that they're great staple mattes. I personally prefer a subtle matte, and I can build it and then go in with like a really sparkly toppery shimmer. I'm still going to say no. I feel like my Viseart palettes don't get enough love, especially for the good quality. Like, they are great quality. If I worked an office job, if I had to go in and meet clients and had to look more professional, quote unquote, this brand I would reach for so much more, but it's just not my makeup style on the everyday. So yeah, I would not spend the money to repurchase it and just continue to have it sit in my collection. I have 2 more palettes to talk about, and the next one is Blend Bunny The Longing palette. This was my first Blend Bunny palette. It's actually the only one that I tried. I have picked up since this the Plastics palette, but I haven't gotten around to trying it yet. And oh man, I would not repurchase this palette. Again, trying to be ultra honest, I would not spend the money to purchase this again. I will agree with everyone that the formula is beautiful. I really wanted to try the Blend Bunny formula. Everyone raves about it. I 100% agree with what everyone says. The mattes are stunning. Even though it's most of their palettes are heavy leaning on the mattes, there's not a lot of shimmers. The shimmers that they have included are stunning. The issue with this palette is it is so mid to dark tone for me, and it's just too many dark tones. If we had gotten rid of this entire row here, I think I would like the palette more. It's also a little bit large, so just getting rid of this row would have made the palette a little bit smaller, more condensed, less dark tones. I just don't see, like, on the eye, and it could be my eyesight, quite honestly, because my eyesight's pretty poor, I don't see that much of a difference on the eye with these different dark shades. So it's just 6 shades that are the same for me. Maybe like slight differences, but not enough to really notice. So no, I would not repurchase this palette as much as it pains me. I am still waiting for my perfect Blend Bunny palette. I just need them to come out with something a little bit more neutral. And I know that's not their aesthetic, but that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for like that perfect neutral with a pop of color kind of palette. So this is also going to be going in the no pile. My very last palette to talk about, we're going to wrap it up with Nomad again. This is the Polar Express palette. Purchased this during Black Friday. Here's what this palette looks like. And I actually would repurchase this palette despite how much I dislike blues. I really enjoy this palette. For me, it's not as blue heavy as you would think. Like, I think this row of blue really jumps out at you with the blue background, and then the other shades being a little bit more desaturated, a little bit more muted. The blue really comes out in this palette, but it's not as blue as you would think. And I do like these 2 tones of blue. If anything, I'm just not really loving this shade of blue. And these are whites. This is a silver. You have a white iridescent and then a white matte. So there's really not that many blues I dislike in this palette. And the rest of the palette I love. I remember when I used this palette, No Pan Left Behind style, I did like a cranberry gold look, loved it. This row here is like my perfect neutral brown tones, love it. With this one here, the shimmer was stunning. Now these are more on the side of the Ghost Town USA shimmer formula where they're opaque, but they're not so like wet and thick because they're just a little bit drier in the pan. So they go on a lot more thinner and they look more flattering on the lid. Ghost Town USA, I feel, because they are more wet, they just look thick on the lids and it's not flattering. These look flattering on the lids and I really enjoy this palette. I would actually repurchase this one. So let's wrap up, shall we? I have my no pile and my yes pile. My yes pile has 4 palettes. Okay, not as bad as I thought. Nomad Polar Express, Nomad Chicago Speakeasy, Ensley Reign Cold Moon, and then Too Faced Appley in Love. The no pile has Blend Bunny Longing. However, I will say, like, stand by the formula. Viseart Midsommer, the Dior Promenade Doree, this Patrick Ta duo still in the club. Chuck that across the room. The Nomad Tokyo palette, and then the Nomad Ghost Town USA palette. I usually am about 50-50 on these. I'm actually happy with that because I was expecting like an 8-2 split, and that would have made me a little bit sad since most of these palettes are newer in my collection. Like I said, in fact, almost all of them are pretty new in my collection. So I'm happy with the split, although I clearly still have a lot of reflection to do when it comes to buying eyeshadow palettes. And that's why I love doing this series, is it gives me time in like small bite-sized pieces to look at just a little part of my collection and see what I'm actually head over heels in love with. There are palettes in the no pile that I enjoy, I like having, but I'm not head over heels in love. And I feel like maybe you should be with every single one of your palettes, right? Like I could get probably with these palettes that I just am head over heels in love with, I could probably dupe out the vibes of these palettes somewhat within my collection. So it just gives me a little bit to think about. I like talking about all of these palettes with you. I'd love to know down below if you agree or disagree with some of my opinions here. It's just makeup. I like to have fun. So let me know your thoughts down below. But this is where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.